Welcome, and thank you for joining Go to Sleep Historian. Tonight's story is designed for relaxation, quiet listening, and drifting peacefully into sleep. There is no need to stay alert, and no need to remember every detail. Simply listen or let the words fade gently into the background. In this episode, we will step into the softer side of the medieval world. A world shaped not by battles or kings, but by festivals, feasts, rituals, lullabies, and long evenings by the fire. We will follow the turning of the year, from midwinter nights to summer gatherings, and settle slowly into the calm rhythms of village life. As this spoken story comes to an end, soft, relaxing music will begin, allowing you to rest without interruption. If you find comfort in these quiet journeys through the past, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps keep these long, peaceful history stories alive. Now, get comfortable. And let us begin. Evening arrives gently in the medieval village. It does not announce itself with urgency or command attention with sudden change. Instead, it settles in slowly, like a familiar guest who has walked this path many times before. The light softens first, thinning along the edges of fields and paths, then fading from the low stone walls and wooden fences that divide one plot of land from another. Shadows lengthen without drama. Nothing needs to hurry. The day's work has already begun to loosen its grip. Tools are returned to sheds. Baskets are set down near doorways. Animals, guided more by habit than instruction, move toward the places where they will rest. The village understands this hour well. It has lived within it for generations. A bell rings in the distance, not loudly, not insistently. Just once. Then again, measured and calm. It marks the approach of evening prayer, though many will not stop what they are doing immediately. Some pause. Others finish one last small task. The sound is not meant to interrupt, only to remind. Time here is not divided sharply. It flows. It flows. Smoke begins to rise more steadily now from chimneys across the village. Thin at first, then thicker, curling upward into the cooling air. Inside the houses, fires are being fed for the night. Not large fires, not roaring ones. Just enough to hold warmth, to cook the last meal of the day, to keep darkness from pressing too closely against the walls. Doors remain open for a little while longer. Neighbors exchange quiet words. A child is called inside. A bucket of water is set near the hearth. The routines are ordinary, but they carry comfort precisely because they do not change. As the sun lowers beyond the fields, colors flatten and soften. Browns and grays replace greens and golds. The world becomes simpler to look at. Paths that were busy earlier now lie mostly empty. Footsteps fade. The sound of work gives way to the quieter sounds of living low voices. The clink of pottery, the murmur of animals settling down. Inside the homes, the air grows warmer and stiller. Light flickers against walls darkened by years of smoke. Benches and stools are drawn closer to the hearth. Supper is not elaborate. It rarely is. Bread, perhaps thick and coarse. A pot of stew that has been simmering patiently. Ale poured slowly, without ceremony. People eat without rush. The body is tired in a way that asks for rest, not stimulation. These evenings are not empty of meaning. In fact, they carry much of it. For the medieval village, life is shaped as much by what happens after sunset as by what fills the daylight hours. The night is not merely an absence of work. It is a time with its own customs, its own expectations, its own gentle rituals. After the meal, the pace slows further. Dishes are cleaned with care, but not precision. There is no need for perfection. Hands are warmed by the fire. Someone stirs the embers, adjusting them so they will last longer into the night. Another adds a piece of wood, listening briefly to the soft sound as it catches. Outside, the sky deepens toward blue and then toward something darker. Stars appear one by one, not all at once. The moon, if present, casts a pale and steady light over the roofs and lanes. If clouds cover the sky, darkness arrives more fully, wrapping the village in a shared uncertainty that everyone accepts. This is the hour when stories begin to surface, not dramatic tales meant to excite, but familiar ones. a memory of a past festival, a saint's kindness retold for the 100th time, a quiet remark about the coming season. These conversations are not meant to reach conclusions. They drift like smoke, rising and thinning until they disappear. Children grow heavy with sleep, their heads leaned against shoulders. A lullaby may be hummed, not loudly, barely more than breath shaped into sound. Words matter less than rhythm. The melody does not change. It has done this work before. The bell rings again, later now. It signals the close of the day. Those who pray do so simply, without display. Words are spoken softly, sometimes imperfectly, sometimes forgotten halfway through. What matters is the act itself, the pause, the intention, the quiet acknowledgement that the night has come. Beds are prepared. Straw is smoothed. Woolen coverings are shaken and laid out. Shoes are placed where they can be found again in the morning. There is comfort in knowing exactly where everything belongs. Outside, the village grows still. Fires burn lower. Dogs curl up near doorways. The paths that once carried footsteps now hold only shadows. The world feels smaller at night, but also safer, enclosed by darkness rather than exposed by light. It is within this calm that festivals and rituals take their place, not as interruptions, but as extensions of these evenings. Celebrations grow out of routine, not against it. They begin and end within the same rhythm: meals shared, fires tended, prayers spoken, sleep welcomed. Tonight is not a festival night. It does not need to be. Even ordinary evenings carry the same structure, the same promise of rest. Tomorrow may bring work, or celebration, or prayer, or all three together. But for now, none of that matters. The fire settles into a steady glow. Breathing slows. The village holds itself quietly, suspended between the memory of day and the certainty of night. Nothing more is expected, and in this stillness, the medieval world rests, ready, as it always is, to repeat itself again. In the medieval world, time is not experienced as a straight line moving forward. It turns instead, slowly and predictably, like a wheel that has been turning long before anyone now living was born. Days follow nights, seasons follow one another, and the year folds back upon itself again and again. This turning is not hurried. It does not surprise. It comforts. For the village, the year is not measured by numbered dates or distant calendars. It is felt through the body and the land, through the weight of clothing, the length of shadows, the softness or hardness of the ground beneath one's feet. Time announces itself through change, but change that arrives gradually, allowing everyone to adjust without fear. Winter loosens its hold slowly. Cold does not vanish all at once. It retreats in small ways. Thinner frost, longer light, softer mornings. Spring does not burst forth dramatically. It stretches, yawns, and begins. The people of the village understand this rhythm well. They plan their lives around it, not because they must think about it constantly, but because it is always present. Fields are prepared when the earth allows it. Animals are tended according to the weather. Food is stored or shared based on what the season gives and what it takes away. Festivals and rituals grow directly from this turning of the year. They are not placed upon time like decorations. They rise from it, shaped by the same forces that shape the land. Each celebration has its place, and that place rarely changes. This reliability is part of its meaning. There is comfort in knowing that certain moments will return. That light will increase after darkness. That warmth will follow cold. That rest will come after labor. The year promises this, and the village trusts the promise. As winter fades, people begin to speak of what is coming, but without urgency. There is no rush toward spring. The cold has taught patience. When the days grow longer, candles are still lit at dusk. Fires are still needed. The world is not yet ready to move quickly. Spring is welcomed carefully. It brings relief, but also uncertainty. Fields must be watched. Seeds must be placed at the right time. Too early, and they fail. Too late, and they struggle. The village does not celebrate wildly yet. It observes, listens, and waits. Summer arrives gradually. Light lingers longer in the evening. Workdays stretch, but nights remain calm. The body adapts. Sleep shifts slightly, but never disappears. Even in the longest days, there is still an understanding that rest is necessary, that night must be honored. Autumn follows with its own quiet certainty. The air cools again. Colors they append, the work of gathering begins. Steady and deliberate. This is a time of completion, not excitement. What has grown is brought in. What has been earned is acknowledged, and then winter returns. Always. Not as a surprise, but as a known guest. Preparations have been made. Wood has been stacked. Food stored. Stories remembered. The village settles inward again, ready to repeat what it has already lived. This cycle shapes the spiritual life of the medieval world just as much as it shapes labor. Religious observance follows the same turning. Saints' days, feast days, fasting periods, all placed carefully within the year, matching the needs of body and soul. Certain times are for restraint, others are for abundance. Neither lasts forever. This balance teaches patience without words. Children grow up knowing it instinctively. They do not need to be told that joy and difficulty alternate. They live italiano. Because of this, celebrations rarely feel sudden. When a feast arrives, it feels expected. When a fast begins, it feels appropriate. Nothing feels arbitrary. The year has guided everyone gently to this point. Evenings reflect this rhythm as well. As the seasons turn, the nights change their character. Winter nights are long and enclosed, shaped by firelight and silence. Summer nights are lighter, stretched but still calm. Autumn nights carry a sense of gathering in. Spring nights hold cautious hope. Rituals before sleep respond to these shifts. In winter, prayers may linger longer, spoken slowly against the cold. In summer, they may be shorter, lighter, carried by open air, but they are always present, always repeated. This repetition is not dull to the medieval mind. It is stabilizing. Each year confirms the last. Each cycle reinforces the belief that the world, though often difficult, is held together by order. People rarely speak about time in abstract ways. They do not discuss years as numbers passing. They speak of winters endured, harvests remembered, festivals returned. Memory itself is seasonal. As night falls again over the village, the turning of the year is not something anyone actively considers. It lives quietly beneath everything. Beneath the meal, beneath the fire, beneath the prayer whispered before sleep. The wheel continues to turn, whether it is watched or not, and because it turns so steadily, the village can rest within it. Nothing must be rushed. Nothing must be forced. Tomorrow will come in its own time. So will spring, and so will winter. So will rest. The year holds them all. Midwinter settles over the village without surprise. It arrives the way it always has, slowly, firmly, and with a quiet sense of inevitability. The day shortened until light feels like a brief visitor, passing low across the sky before retreating again. Night stretches comfortably into morning, and the village adjusts its rhythm to match. Cold is no longer something to notice. It is simply present. Breath shows itself in the air. Hands stiffen easily. Stone walls hold the chill even indoors. But this, too, is familiar. People know how to move within it, how to dress against it, how to work without wasting warmth. Midwinter is not feared. It is respected. Fires become the center of everything. Not large, dramatic flames, but steady ones, carefully tended. Wood is added with thought, never wasted. Embers are stirred gently, coaxed. The hearth becomes both practical and symbolic, a place of heat, light, and quiet gathering. As the longest nights arrive, candles appear more often. Their light is soft and limited, casting shadows that move slowly along the walls. Wax is precious. Wicks are trimmed carefully. Candles are lit with intention, not habit. Each flame is meant to serve a purpose, even if that purpose is only comfort. Yule comes during this time, though it does not arrive with spectacle. It is woven into the season rather than standing apart from it. The village does not need reminding that the night has grown long. They live inside that knowledge already. At Yule, people gather closer than usual. Doors are closed earlier. The cold encourages proximity. Meals are shared with a little more care. Bread may be thicker, stew may be richer. Ale may be poured slightly more generously, though never excessively. What is shared slowly. The Yule fire is prepared deliberately. A larger piece of wood is placed upon the hearth, meant to burn long and steady through the night. It is not meant to blaze. It is meant to endure. Watching it burn is calming, almost hypnotic. The crackle is soft, the glow constant. Stories emerge naturally during these evenings. Not stories meant to astonish, but ones meant to accompany the fire. Tales of past winters, of ancestors who endured the same darkness, of saints who watched over travelers and households alike. The words are familiar. No one listens closely. Listening is not required. Children sit or lie near the warmth, eyes heavy. Their world is reduced to firelight and sound. A hand rests on a shoulder. A blanket is pulled higher. Someone hums quietly, a melody with no clear beginning or end. Outside, snow may fall, or frost may form silently. The village does not watch for it. Winter does not need observation. It simply is. The night hours during midwinter are long, but they are not empty. They are filled with small rituals that bring reassurance. Hands are warmed before sleep. Faces are washed carefully. Though the water is cold, words are spoken softly, not because they must be heard, but because they must be said. Prayers during this season often linger. They stretch slightly longer than at other times of year, shaped by the length of the night. Protection is asked for. Gratitude is expressed. Familiar saints are named. The words do not change much from year to year. That is part of their strength. Beds are made thicker. Straw is adjusted. Woolen coverings are layered. People prepare for sleep, knowing it will come early and last long. There is no pressure to remain awake. Darkness gives permission to rest. The village, seen from a distance, appears quiet and contained. Smoke rises straight upward when the air is still, drifting only slightly. Light leaks faintly from shuttered windows, then disappears one by one as candles are extinguished. Even those who remain awake do not do so restlessly. A watch may be kept, a fire may be tended, but movement is minimal. Sound is reduced. Everything encourages stillness. Midwinter festivals do not disrupt. They are shaped by it. Celebration does not mean noise. It means togetherness. It means shared warmth. It means acknowledging that the darkness is at its deepest and that it will not remain forever. Somewhere in the village, a bell may be rung gently, marking the season. It does not ring long. It does not call people outward. It settles back into silence quickly, leaving the night intact. As hours pass, the Yule fire burns down slowly, exactly as intended. Embers glow softly, promising warmth until morning. The room smells faintly of wood and smoke. Breathing slows. Dreams come easily. In such conditions, no one expects immediate change. No one waits for dawn with impatience. Midwinter teaches endurance, not anticipation. The knowledge that light will return is enough. It does not need to be witnessed. Sleep takes hold, gradually. The body relaxes into the certainty of shelter. The mind drifts without effort. Outside, the night continues, wide and unbroken, and within the walls of the village, within the circle of firelight and memory, Midwinter holds steady, quiet, cold, and strangely kind. The cold remains, but something has begun to change. It is not obvious at first. The air still bites at uncovered skin. Frost still clings to the ground in the early hours. Fires are still needed from dusk until dawn. Yet the village senses a quiet shift, one so subtle it can only be felt through habit rather than observation. The light is returning, not quickly, not boldly, just a little at a time. Mornings grow marginally clearer before the day fully begins. Evenings hold on to their glow for a few breaths longer. The difference is slight enough that no one remarks upon it directly, yet noticeable enough to be felt in the body. Movements feel marginally less heavy. The day seems to stretch just enough to allow a slower pace. This is the season of Candlemas. Candlemas does not arrive as a celebration of warmth or abundance. It is not a promise fulfilled, only a promise remembered. The village understands that winter is far from finished. Snow may still fall. Winds may still cut through stone and wood, but the worst darkness is past, and that knowledge settles quietly into daily life. Candles take on renewed meaning during this time. They have been present throughout winter, of course, but now they are regarded differently. Their light is no longer only defensive, no longer just something that holds back night. It becomes symbolic, gentle, hopeful without excitement. On Candlemas, candles are blessed, though the act is simple. There is no spectacle. The wax is ordinary, the flame small. The words spoken over them are familiar and unadorned. What matters is not the ritual itself, but the recognition of what the candle represents. Light that lasts. Candles are carried carefully back into homes. Some are placed near beds, others near doorways. A few may be saved for times of illness or uncertainty. They are not burned wastefully. Each one has a future purpose. As evening falls on this day, the lighting of candles feels different. The room does not seem quite as enclosed. Shadows move more gently along the walls. The flame feels less like a necessity and more like a companion. The fire still burns in the hearth, steady and dependable, but attention drifts to the smaller lights now. To the way a single candle shapes a corner of the room, how it softens faces, how it creates a quiet boundary between what is known and what is hidden. Meals during this season remain simple. Winter food still dominates stored grains, preserved vegetables, thick bread. Yet there is a subtle change in how these foods are received. They are no longer symbols of survival alone. They are part of a transition, marking the slow movement toward renewal. Evenings lengthen just enough to be noticed. People linger slightly longer before settling into sleep. Conversations extend by a few sentences. Hands remain busy a little later, mending or carving or simply warming themselves near the flame. Children sense the change without understanding it. Their energy lifts faintly. They resist sleep for a moment longer, watching the candle flicker, listening to the soft sounds of the household. Eventually, they surrender to rest as they always do. Prayers spoken at Candlemas often acknowledged light directly. Words of gratitude are offered not for warmth, not for ease, but for continuity, for the certainty that the world moves forward even when progress is slow. The village does not celebrate loudly. There are no great gatherings. Candlemas is observed within the home, within the self. Its power lies in its quietness. Outside, the night still claims most of the day. Paths remain dark. The sky remains wide and cold, but stars seem clearer now, sharper against the deep blue. The moon, when visible, rises a little higher before disappearing again. These changes are not discussed. They are simply lived. As the season turns, routines remain steady. Fires are tended the same way. Beds are prepared with the same care. Shoes are placed by the door. Tools remain stored. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is forced. The candle by the bedside becomes a point of calm focus. Its flame does not dance wildly. It leans slightly, steady in its purpose. Watching it burn encourages stillness. Breathing slows. Thoughts become less defined. When it is time to extinguish the candle, it is done deliberately. Fingers are moistened. The flame disappears with a soft sound, leaving behind a faint curl of smoke and the quiet scent of wax. Darkness returns fully, but it feels different now. Less heavy, less endless. Sleep arrives easily during this season. The body, still tired from winter, accepts rest readily. Dreams come gently, shaped by firelight and memory, rather than cold or fear. Outside, the village settles once more into silence. The returning light does not disturb this rest. It supports Italiano. Candlemas does not announce spring. It only whispers that change is underway, and that whisper is enough. Spring does not arrive suddenly in the medieval village. It moves in quietly, like someone careful not to disturb a resting household. The cold loosens its hold only a little at a time. Mornings remain crisp. Evenings still ask for fire, yet something in the air feels lighter, less burdened by the long weight of winter. The earth begins to soften beneath careful footsteps. Frost retreats into the shadows, lingering where the sun does not yet reach. Water moves more freely again, no longer held still by ice. These signs are noticed without excitement. They are expected, though never taken for granted. With spring comes the idea of renewal, but not the rush of it. The medieval village understands renewal as something fragile. It must be approached slowly, with respect. Too much hope too soon invites disappointment. The people have learned patience from the land itself. Spring feasts emerge within this careful balance. They are modest, restrained, shaped by gratitude rather than abundance. There is relief in eating without strict winter limits, but no indulgence. Stores are still guarded closely. What has lasted through winter is valued deeply. Bread may be made with a slightly lighter hand. Stews may include early greens gathered cautiously from the edges of fields and paths. These foods are welcomed not for their novelty, but for what they represent, the land stirring awake. Feasting in spring is less about celebration and more about acknowledgement. It is a way of marking survival without tempting excess. The village has endured the hardest season. That fact alone is enough. Religious observance during this time reflects the same tone. Easter arrives not as spectacle, but as reassurance. Its message is not proclaimed loudly. It is absorbed quietly, through repetition, through familiar words spoken in familiar spaces. Churches may feel slightly brighter now. Light reaches further inside. Candles still burn, but they are no longer the sole source of illumination. Stone walls seem less heavy. Air moves more freely. After prayers, people return home without lingering. The day continues as it always has. Work resumes, though adjusted carefully to the changing ground. Fields are approached with attention. Seeds are placed gently, almost reverently, into tea soil. Evenings during spring feel subtly different. There is more light left in the sky when supper is eaten. Shadows soften rather than deepen. The transition into night becomes more gradual, less abrupt. Fires are still lit, but they are smaller now, more symbolic than necessary. Their warmth is appreciated, but not clung to. Windows may be opened slightly, allowing fresh air to move through rooms that have been closed tight for months. Spring feasts, when they occur, are often shared within households rather than across the whole village. A slightly better meal, a longer pause at the table, a quiet sense of thankfulness that does not demand expression. Children respond to the season instinctively. They linger outside a little longer before being called in. Their movements feel lighter. Their sleep comes easily, shaped by activity rather than confinement. Adults feel the change differently. There is relief, but also responsibility. Spring brings work, careful planning, and uncertainty. The success of the coming year begins now, in these early days. This knowledge tempers joy, grounding it firmly. Rituals before sleep remain steady. Hands are washed. Faces are touched gently by cool water. Prayers are spoken softly, often with thanks for what has already been endured rather than what is hoped for. The candle by the bedside continues to burn, though it may not be needed as long. It is extinguished sooner. Darkness follows, but it feels thinner, less enclosing. Outside, the village rests under a sky that still belongs mostly to night. Stars appear earlier now, clearer in the cool air. The moon reflects faintly off damp ground and budding branches. Spring nights are quiet, filled with subtle sounds, water moving, wood settling, distant animals stirring. These sounds do not disrupt sleep. They support it, reminding the listener that the world is active but not demanding. Feasts and rituals of spring do not seek to awaken excitement. They encourage steadiness. They affirm that renewal is real, but gradual. That life returns in measured steps, not leaps. As the village settles into rest, there is a sense of cautious ease. Winter has passed its deepest point. Summer remains distant. For now, this middle ground is enough. The fire dims. Breathing slows. The careful joy of spring does not insist on being felt. It waits patiently, growing stronger day by day. By the time May arrives, the village has settled into a new rhythm. The ground no longer resists the plow. Grass thickens along paths and field edges. Trees carry leaves that are still light in color, thin enough for sunlight to pass through. The air itself feels different now. Softer, fuller, easier to breathe. May Day is known in the village not as a sudden celebration, but as a gentle turning point. It marks a moment when growth is no longer tentative. The land has committed itself to the season. People respond to this shift instinctively, with small gestures rather than grand declarations. Flowers appear everywhere, gathered casually rather than arranged with care. They are woven into simple garlands, placed on doorways, tucked into hair or set near windows. No one worries about symmetry. The flowers are temporary by nature, and that is part of their meaning. May Day begins in daylight and remains there. Unlike winter festivals, it does not lean heavily into fire or darkness. The sun plays a greater role now, stretching the day and softening the approach of evening. Songs are sung during May, though they are not loud. Their melodies are repetitive, easy to follow. Words are often forgotten or replaced, but the tune remains. Music drifts through the village lightly, carried on open air rather than enclosed walls. If a maple is raised, it is done without ceremony. Ribbons are simple. Movements are unhurried. The purpose is not display, but participation. People join briefly, then drift away again, returning to their tasks or conversations. There's a quiet pleasure in seeing the village gathered in daylight. Faces are more visible. Expressions are easier to read. Laughter appears occasionally, but it does not linger. Energy is spent gently, without urgency. As afternoon fades, the celebration begins to loosen. People do not wait for an ending. There is no signal to stop. The gathering simply thins as individuals return home, carrying with them small traces of the day, a flower, a tune, a sense of shared presence. Evenings during May are noticeably longer. Supper is eaten with light still in the sky. Shadows are softer now, stretched thin rather than heavy. Windows remain open. Air moves freely through rooms. The hearth fire is lit later, if at all. Warmth comes from the day itself. When a fire is made, it is small and symbolic, offering comfort rather than necessity. Children resist sleep a little more strongly now. They are drawn to the lingering light, to the sounds that continue outside longer than before. Adults respond with patience. This change is expected at ease. May Day rituals do not demand solemnity. They encouraged awareness of growth, of warmth, of time passing without threat. The village accepts this shift without questioning it. As darkness finally begins to gather, it does so gently. The sky deepens slowly. Stars appear later, one by one. The moon, when visible, feels less dominant than it did in winter. Night does not press inward as firmly as before. Bedtime rituals remain unchanged. Hands are washed. Faces are cooled. Prayers are spoken, though their tone is lighter now, touched more by gratitude than petition. Candles are lit briefly, then extinguished. Darkness arrives, but it feels thinner, less enclosing. Sleep takes slightly longer to arrive, but when it does, it is deep and steady. Outside, the village quiets gradually. Doors close later, sounds fade more slowly. The world does not hurry itself into silence. May Day leaves no lasting mark on the ground. Flowers wilt, songs fade. Yet something remains, a sense that the year has opened fully, that light and warmth have claimed their place. As the village settles into rest, the longer days continue their slow expansion. Work and celebration balance one another without conflict. Nothing needs to be forced. The night arrives calmly at last, folding itself around the village with care, and within that calm, sleep returns untroubled, familiar, and patient. Weddings in the medieval village are not occasions of spectacle. They do not interrupt the rhythm of daily life so much as they settle gently into it, becoming another expression of the community's steady continuity. A marriage is understood not as a beginning alone, but as a joining of households, of labor, of shared responsibility. Preparations begin quietly. There is no long anticipation, no elaborate display. Clothes are cleaned and mended. Bread is baked in slightly greater quantity. Ale is set aside, enough to be shared without waste. Everything is done with care, but without excess. The day itself unfolds without hurry. People gather naturally, drawn by familiarity rather than instruction. Faces are calm. Words are simple. The meaning of the moment does not need explanation. Ceremony is brief. Vows are spoken clearly and plainly. Promises are made in words that have been spoken many times before. Their power lies in repetition, not novelty. The community listens without interruption, knowing that their presence alone gives weight to the exchange. Afterward, there is food. Not lavish, but sufficient. Bread is passed from hand to hand. Stew is ladled carefully. Ale is poured slowly, foam settling before cups are raised. People eat together without ceremony, sharing space rather than attention. Conversation flows easily. Topics are familiar. The weather, the fields, the condition of animals. Occasionally, someone offers a kind remark or a quiet wish for the couple. These words are not dramatic. They are practical, grounded in daily life. Children move freely among the adults, accepted as part of the gathering. They eat, wander, return. Their presence reinforces the sense that this event belongs to the whole village, not just to two individuals. Music may appear, but it remains subdued. A simple instrument, a familiar tune. The rhythm is gentle, easy to follow. Some join in briefly, then stop. The music does not demand participation. It accompanies the moment, then fades. As daylight stretches into evening, the gathering begins to thin. People drift away gradually, returning to their homes without announcement. There is no abrupt ending. The celebration dissolves naturally back into routine. For the newly married, the evening carries its own quiet significance. They return to a shared space now marked differently than before. Objects remain the same. The room does not change, yet the understanding of it does. Rituals before sleep take on added meaning. This night, hands are washed more carefully. A candle may be lit longer than usual. Words are spoken softly, acknowledging the day without lingering on it. The village responds to weddings, not with excitement, but with reassurance. Life continues. Fields still need tending. Meals must still be prepared. This continuity is comforting. It places the event within a larger, stable pattern. Outside, the evening settles as it always does. Light fades gradually. Sounds soften. Doors close. Fires are lit and adjusted. Those who attended the wedding carry the memory with them quietly. There is no retelling, no need to revisit details. The moment has passed into the shared history of the village, where it will rest without disturbance. Ale cups are rinsed. Benches are returned to their places. The space used for gathering returns to its everyday purpose. Sleep arrives gently. The body, having shared food and company, accepts rest readily. Dreams may carry fragments of song or conversation, but they do not linger. Weddings, like festivals, are absorbed into the life of the village without disruption. They mark continuity rather than change. They remind everyone that the cycle of seasons and labor and rest continues uninterrupted. As the night deepens, the village grows quiet again. The celebration has ended not with noise, but with stillness. And within that stillness, the community holds itself together, steady, familiar, and at ease. Summer settles into the village without urgency. By now, the long days have become familiar rather than remarkable. Light stretches comfortably from morning into evening, and the people move within it with ease. The body adapts. Sleep adjusts. Work finds its pace again. Saints' days are scattered throughout the summer, arriving quietly, almost scently, among ordinary tasks. They do not interrupt the season. They rest within it, like pauses that do not stop motion but soften it. These days are marked more by acknowledgement than by celebration. A name remembered. A prayer spoken. A candle lit briefly, even though daylight still fills the room. The act is symbolic, not necessary, and that makes it meaningful. Summer nights are different from all others. Darkness does not arrive quickly. It drifts in, slowly, hesitant at first, as if uncertain whether it is welcome. The sky holds its color longer. Birds settle later, sounds linger. Evenings remain active longer now. Supper is eaten with light still touching the walls. Hands continue their work for a while, mending, carving, sorting, without strain. There is no pressure to stop. There is no pressure to continue. When saints' days fall during this season, the observance is modest. People may attend prayers earlier in the day. They may pause briefly from work, but the summer itself remains dominant, shaping behavior more strongly than any single date. Children notice saints' days in small ways. They hear names repeated. They sense a difference in tone, but the warmth of summer holds their attention more than ritual does. Adults carry the observance more quietly. Saints are invoked for protection, for steady harvests, for continued health. These requests are spoken calmly, without fear. Summer encourages confidence, though not carelessness. As evening deepens, the village begins its slow descent into night. Doors remain open longer. Voices carry farther. The air holds warmth, even after the sun has gone. Fires are minimal now. A hearth may be lit only to cook, then allowed to fade. Candles are used sparingly, often only once darkness is fully arrived. Their light feels almost unnecessary, but still comforting. Saints' vigils, when observed, are gentle affairs. They do not demand wakefulness. A prayer spoken at dusk is enough. Sleep is not delayed for devotion. Rest is understood as part of reverence. The night sky in summer feels wide and calm. Stars appear later, but when they do, they seem clearer, sharper. The moon travels higher, casting a pale and even light across fields and paths. People prepare for sleep gradually. There is no clear boundary between evening and night. The transition is stretched, softened by lingering warmth and sound. Bedtime rituals remain consistent. Hands are washed, faces cooled. Prayers spoken quietly, sometimes abbreviated, sometimes lingering slightly longer. The rhythm remains unchanged, even as daylight shifts. Summer dreams are lighter. They move easily, shaped by warmth rather than enclosure. Sleep comes without resistance, even if it arrives later than in other seasons. Outside, the village quiets itself slowly. Sounds fade one by one. The world does not fall silent abruptly. It relaxes into stillness. Saints' days pass without fanfare. They leave no mark on the ground. Their purpose is not remembrance alone, but continuity, a reminder that even in abundance, there is order. As the night settles fully at last, the village rests beneath a sky that still holds warmth. Tomorrow will be long again. Work will resume. Another saint may be remembered. Another evening will arrive. For now, none of that matters. The present moment is calm. The body is tired in a gentle way. The mind releases its hold, and summer night, patient and wide, carries the village quietly into sleep. Midsummer arrives almost without warning, carried in on the longest days of the year. Light lingers so late now that evening feels like an extension of afternoon rather than a separate time altogether. The sun sets slowly, reluctantly, as if unsure it should leave at all. The village adjusts to this brightness, not with excitement, but with quiet awareness. Midsummer is marked less by what changes than by what is acknowledged. Growth is everywhere. Fields are full. Trees are heavy with leaves. The work of tending continues steadily, but there is a sense that the land is carrying much of the effort itself now. Fires appear again during this season, though they are different from winter hearths. Midsummer fires are not built for warmth. They are built for presence. Their flames rise briefly against the evening sky, bright but controlled, meant to be seen rather than felt. These fires are placed carefully at the edges of fields, near paths, in spaces where the village gathers naturally. They are lit as daylight finally begins to fade, their glow standing out clearly against the lingering blue of the sky. People gather around them without crowding. There is space between bodies. Heat is not needed, so closeness is not required. The fire's purpose is symbolic, quiet, protective. Midsummer rituals are simple. Words may be spoken softly. Often, charms are repeated without explanation. These are not spells in any dramatic sense. They are habits of reassurance, passed down without question. The fire is believed to guard the land, to watch over crops and homes alike. Smoke drifts upward, carrying intention with it, though no one watches closely to see where it goes. The act itself is enough. Children are allowed near the fires, but not too near. They watch the flames with calm interest. Someone always stands close by, steady and unhurt. There is no danger, because nothing is rushed. As the evening deepens, the fire burns steadily, then begins to soften. No one feeds it aggressively. It is allowed to settle in its own time. This is not a night for spectacle. It is a night for balance. Protective rituals extend beyond the fires themselves. Herbs may be gathered earlier in the day, dried carefully, tied into small bundles. These are placed near doors or beds, not as guarantees, but as comforts. Windows may be left open longer on this night. Air moves freely. The village breathes easily. Sounds carry farther, but they are gentle footsteps, low voices, distant movement. As darkness finally arrives, it feels lighter than at any other time of year. The night does not enclose the village. It hovers around it, present but not pressing. Prayers spoken on Midsummer Night often focus on preservation rather than change. Words ask that what has grown will remain, that storms will pass gently, that illness will stay away. These requests are spoken calmly, without fear. Bedtime comes later than usual, but it does come. The body still recognizes the need for rest. The mind, soothed by light and warmth, releases itself. Candles are lit briefly, then extinguished. Their light is almost unnecessary after such a long day, yet the gesture remains important. It signals the shift from wakefulness to rest. Outside, the last of the midsummer fires burn down to embers. Smoke thins, sparks fade. The night absorbs what remains without disturbance. Sleep during midsummer is deep and steady. Dreams pass lightly, shaped by warmth and open air. There is no heaviness, no confinement. The village settles fully now, wrapped not in darkness, but in quiet. The longest day has ended. Another will come tomorrow, but for now, the balance holds. Midsummer does not promise permanence. It simply acknowledges fullness. The fire has burned, the ritual is complete, and as the embers cool and the village rests, the year continues its slow, patient turn. As summer begins to loosen its hold, the village senses the shift before it can be clearly seen. The air cools slightly at night. Mornings arrive with a faint sharpness. The light, still generous, no longer lingers without effort. Autumn approaches quietly, carried in by these small changes. Harvest does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds steadily, day after day, shaped by patience and repetition. Fields are approached with care. Tools are used thoughtfully. Each movement is deliberate, not hurried. What is grown must be gathered properly, without waste. Harvest Home marks the completion of this work. It is not a celebration of abundance alone, but of endurance. The village has brought in what the land has given, and that fact is enough. Food is gathered and stored carefully. Grain is measured. Vegetables are sorted. Nothing is taken lightly. The memory of past winters lingers beneath every action, guiding hands and decisions. When the harvest is complete, the village pauses. This pause is the heart of Harvest Home. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is a collective breath taken after sustained effort. Meals shared at this time are satisfying, but restrained. There may be more food than usual, but it is not consumed recklessly. Portions are generous without being indulgent. The act of eating together carries more meaning than the food itself. Bread made from the new grain is broken and shared. Its texture is noticed. Its warmth is appreciated. Each bite carries the understanding of labor completed and survival secured, at least for now. Ale may be poured, but slowly. Cups are filled and refilled with awareness. Laughter appears, but it remains soft. Voices rise only slightly above their usual tone. Conversation during Harvest Home often reflects backward rather than forward. People speak of the season just past, of weather endured, of work completed, of moments of difficulty and ease. There is less talk of the coming winter. It is known, and therefore does not need discussion. The village does not gather in one place for long. Small groups form and dissolve naturally. Some remain near the fields. Others return home earlier. There is no expectation to stay or perform. Children sense the importance of the moment without understanding it fully. They are allowed small indulgences, an extra piece of bread, a longer evening outside. These allowances are given quietly, without announcement. As evening approaches, the pace slows again. Fires are lit earlier now. The air cools faster once the sun sets. The village responds instinctively, drawing inward. Harvest home does not extend late into the night. There is no need. The work has been done, rest discerned. Prayers spoken at this time are grounded in gratitude. Words thank the land, the weather, the steady passage of days. There is no sense of triumph. Only relief. Candles are lit, their light reflecting off stored goods and filled baskets. These sights offer reassurance. The village will endure the coming months. Beds are prepared carefully. Sleep comes easily after long days of labor. The body welcomes rest without hesitation. Outside, the fields lie quiet now. Stubble remains where crops once stood. The land rests alongside the people. Harvest home does not mark an ending so much as a transition. The fullness of summer gives way to preparation. The village accepts this shift without resistance. As the night deepens, silence settles comfortably. The satisfaction of work completed lingers, easing the mind. The year turns again, steady and sure. Gratitude does not need expression beyond this quiet rest. And within that rest, the village sleeps, held by the certainty that what was needed has been done. As autumn settles more fully into the village, there are moments when the usual quiet rhythm is gently altered. These moments come in the form of fairs, not frequent, not extravagant, but anticipated with a mild and steady curiosity. A fair is not an interruption of life here. It is a brief widening of it. Travelers arrive slowly, often in small numbers. They follow familiar routes, guided by habit and memory rather than urgency. Their presence is noticed not by noise, but by difference. Unfamiliar clothing, accents shaped elsewhere, objects carried from beyond the village boundary. Everything is meant to be useful, exchanged, or quietly admired. People approach the fair in small groups or alone. They move unhurriedly, stopping where interest draws them. Conversations begin easily and end without effort. There is no pressure to buy or trade. The act of gathering is enough. Folk songs drift through the space lightly. They are not performed loudly or with flourish. A voice begins. Another joins briefly, then fades away. The melodies are repetitive, shaped for memory rather than attention. Words are flexible. The tune matters more than precision. These songs are familiar, even when sung by strangers. They travel easily, carried from place to place, changing slightly along the way. No one minds the differences. Variation is expected. Traveling storytellers sometimes appear at these fairs. They do not command crowds. They sit or stand quietly, beginning their tales without announcement. Those who wish to listen drift closer. Others pass by without concern. The stories themselves are gentle. They are not meant to excite or frighten. They speak of distant villages, long roads, small kindnesses, quiet endurance. Their pace is slow. Their endings are often unclear, dissolving rather than concluding. Children listen briefly, then wander away. Adults listen while standing, or while sitting on low benches, bodies relaxed. No one leans forward in anticipation. The story does not demand it. As the day moves toward evening, the fair begins to thin. Travelers prepare to move on. Goods are packed carefully. Songs trail off naturally. The village absorbs what has passed through it without effort. What remains after the fair is not excitement, but a gentle widening of perspective. The knowledge that the world extends beyond familiar paths, yet follows similar rhythms elsewhere. Evenings after a fair feel particularly calm. There is satisfaction without fatigue. Curiosity has been met without being stirred too deeply. At home, the routines resume. Supper is eaten quietly. Objects traded or purchased are set aside for later attention. There is no urgency to examine them closely. Fires are lit. Candles glow softly. The sounds of the fair feel distant already, like something remembered rather than experienced. Before sleep, conversations may return briefly to the day, a song heard, a voice remembered, a story have. These fragments fade quickly, replaced by the comfort of routine. Bedtime rituals remain unchanged. Hands are washed. Prayers spoken softly. The body settles without resistance. Sleep comes easily on these nights. Dreams may carry hints of travel, open roads, unfamiliar faces, but they do not disturb rest. They pass through lightly, leaving no trace. Outside, the village returns fully to stillness. Paths are empty again. The fair has left no mark on the ground. What it leaves instead is quiet reassurance. The world is larger, but not louder. Different, but not dangerous. As autumn nights grow longer, this knowledge rests gently in the mind, encouraging calm rather than restlessness. And with that calm, the village sleeps, grounded once more in its familiar silence. As the year moves deeper toward winter once more, evenings reclaim their familiar importance in the life of the village. Daylight shortens again, gently but unmistakably, and the hours after sunset begin to stretch. With them returns a pattern that has been followed countless times before, the quiet sequence of actions that prepare both body and mind for rest. Evening prayers are not dramatic events. They are not spoken loudly or with flourish. They take place where people already are, near the hearth, beside a table, at the edge of a bed. The words are simple, often repeated from memory rather than read. Their purpose is not to impress, Bato study. The village does not pause all at once for prayer. Each household follows its own moment. Some speak words early, before the final meal. Others wait until darkness is fully settled. The lack of uniformity does not matter. What matters is the return of familiar phrases. At the end of the day, hands are washed carefully, even when the water is cold. Faces are wiped gently. These actions are practical, but they also signal transition. The work of the day is being set aside. The body is being prepared for stillness. Candles are lit deliberately. Not many, just one or two, placed where their light will be useful without being harsh. The flame's movement is slow and reassuring. Watching it encourages quiet attention, drawing the mind away from unfinished thoughts. Prayers spoken at this hour are often brief. Gratitude for having passed through the day safely. A request for protection through the night. Words offered for those absent, ill, or traveling. These petitions are spoken without urgency. Fear has no place here. The repetition itself brings comfort. Children learn these rituals early. They memorize phrases before understanding them. Their voices may stumble over words, but no correction is made. Precision is not required. Participation is enough. After prayer, the household settles further. Tools are placed aside. Clothing is arranged for the morning. Shoes are set where they can be found. Easily, these small acts prevent disruption later, allowing the mind to release its hold on preparation. Beds are readied with care. Straw is smoothed. Woolen coverings are adjusted. In colder months, extra layers are added. The bed becomes a place of safety, not indulgence. Before lying down, some pause again briefly. A final word, a sign made quietly, a moment of stillness. These gestures vary from house to house, but their intention remains the same. The night is being acknowledged, not feared. Outside, the village grows silent in stages. One fire dims, then another. Doors close gently. Sounds retreat inward. Even animals settle into quieter patterns. The night watch, if present, moves slowly through the village. Footsteps are measured. There is no hurry. Their presence is reassuring rather than intrusive. Within homes, breathing begins to slow. Muscles loosen. The body, accustomed to this rhythm, responds easily. Sleep approaches not as a demand, but as an invitation. Dreams, when they come, are shaped by the calm of the evening. They drift rather than press. Images appear softly, then fade. The mind does not cling to them. For those who wake briefly during the night, the familiar surroundings provide reassurance, the glow of embers, the shape of the room, the steady presence of others sleeping nearby. There is no need for concern. Sleep returns gently. Evening prayers and bedtime rituals serve a purpose beyond devotion. They create continuity. They mark the passage from activity to rest in a way that feels natural and complete. Across the village, these rituals unfold quietly, household by household, night after night. They do not change with the seasons, though they adapt slightly. Their consistency anchors the community. As the night deepens, the village rests fully. The day has been released. Tomorrow has not yet arrived. There is nothing to be done. Only rest remains. And within that rest, the medieval world holds steady calm, familiar, and at peace. Night settles fully now. No longer hesitant, no longer thin. Darkness takes its place around the village with familiarity, like a cloak worn often and well. Inside the homes, the rhythm of rest deepens, guided by the quiet practices that belong only to night. Lullabies are not performances. They are not sung to be heard clearly or remembered exactly. They exist to soothe, to steady breathing, to soften thought. Their melodies are simple, repeating, shaped more by habit than by design. Words shiftlessly, sometimes dissolving into sound alone. A mother rocks a cradle gently. The motion is slow, barely noticeable, guided by instinct rather than intention. The child does not watch her face. Eyes are already heavy. The lullaby does its work quietly, without insistence. Cradles creak softly, a sound so familiar it fades into the background. It joins the crackle of dying embers, the distant sigh of wind against wood, the low murmur of a household settling into sleep. Lullabies are sung not only to children. Sometimes they are hummed for the singer herself, a way of easing the body toward rest. The tune carries memory of being held, of being save of nights that ended gently. As the song fades, the room remains still. The child sleeps. The adult lingers for a moment longer, watching the rise and fall of breath, then turns away carefully, not wishing to disturb the calm that is settled. Elsewhere in the village, older children lie quietly in shared beds. Their sleep comes without ceremony. The day has been long enough. The night is welcome. Outside, the night watchers move slowly along familiar paths. They are not gods against danger so much as symbols of presence. Their steps are measured, their lanterns, small and controlled, casting narrow circles of light that do not intrude. They pause often, listening rather than looking. The village speaks softly at night, a door shifting, a branch settling, a distant animal moving. Each sound is noted. 10 really is. The night watcher does not hurry. There is no need. The world is quiet. Stillness does most of the work. In homes closest to the paths, sleepers sense the watcher without waking fully. The soft rhythm of footsteps reassures even in dreams. Someone is awake. Someone is keeping time. Within the houses, the last movements of the night conclude. A blanket is adjusted. A hand rests against a familiar shoulder. Breathing aligns, slow and steady. Candles are no longer needed. Darkness fills the rooms completely, but it feels gentle rather than heavy. Shapes are known even when unseen. The body trusts the space it inhabits. Dreams come and go. Some carry fragments of song, others hold nothing at all. Both are welcome. Sleep does not require meaning. The village exists now as a collection of resting bodies and quiet minds. Work has receded fully. Celebration is distant. Only rest remains. The lullabies of earlier hours seem to linger in the air, though no sound remains. Their effect indoors, held in the rhythm of breath and the stillness of limbs. Outside, the night watcher completes another slow circuit, then another. Time moves, but without urgency. Hours pass, unnoticed. Toward the deepest part of night, even the watchers grow still. They rest briefly, leaning against stone or wood, listening to the quiet they help maintain. Nothing threatens the calm. Nothing disturbs the order. The village is enclosed not by walls alone, but by habit, trust, and repetition. This is the heart of night, when the world holds itself gently, asking nothing more of those within it. And in this held space, sleep deepens, steady and unbroken, carrying the village safely toward morning. Winter returns to the village without announcement. There is no single morning that marks its arrival, no sudden shift that demands attention. Instead, it gathers quietly at the edges of days, slowly reclaiming the hours it once held. The air cools. Light shortens. Evenings draw inward again. This return does not bring unease. It brings recognition. The village has been here before. Many times. The path through the year is known, and the return of winter feels less like an ending than a familiar turning back. What once required preparation now requires acceptance. Fires are lit earlier once more. Wood is stacked closer to doors. Windows are closed more often. These actions are taken without comment. The body remembers what to do. Clothing grows heavier. Movement slow, slightly. The pace of life adjusts itself without instruction. No one resists the change. Resistance would only tire the spirit. With winter's return comes repetition, the steady reappearance of routines already lived. Meals become simpler again. Nights lengthen. Sleep arrives earlier. The same prayers are spoken, the same gestures repeated. This repetition does not dull the senses. It soothes them. There is comfort in knowing what comes next, in recognizing the shape of the days ahead. The unknown holds little power here. Winter has been met before and endured. Evenings regain their quiet importance. The hearth resumes its central place. Faces gather in firelight once again, softened by shadow and glow. Conversations shorten naturally, giving way to stillness. Outside, the world grows quiet earlier. Paths empty sooner. Sounds fade more quickly. The village settles inward, like a breath drawn slowly and held. Winter rituals return without emphasis. Candles are used more often. Prayers linger longer. Beds are layered carefully. Each action reinforces safety and closure, familiarity. Children add a bit easily. Their world narrows without distress. They accept the return of darkness as they accepted its retreat. Their sleep remains deep and steady. Adults feel the season differently, but without fear. There is awareness of effort ahead, of endurance required. Yet this awareness is balanced by memory. They have done this before. The year's repetition carries reassurance. Each cycle confirms survival. Each winter past strengthens the belief that this one, too, will pass. Stories told in winter evenings are often the same ones told before. No one asks for new tales. Familiar words bring comfort. Predictability steadies the mind. The body responds to repetition with ease. Muscles relax more quickly. Sleep arrives without resistance. The night becomes a place of rest rather than uncertainty. Outside, frost returns to the ground. Snow may follow. The village meets these signs calmly. Preparation has already been done. What remains is patience. As nights deepen, the sense of enclosure grows stronger. Darkness feels protective rather than pressing. Inside walls and habits, the village holds itself together. Winter does not demand attention. It allows rest. The repetition of the year offers something rare. Permission to let go, to trust what has already been learned, to surrender to familiar rhythms. As the night settles once more over the village, there is no anticipation of what comes next. There is only acceptance of what is. The fire burns low. Breathing slows, thoughts soften. Winter has returned, not as a trial, but as a known companion, and in its presence, the village rests, steady and closed and untroubled. The night has deepened fully now. It no longer feels new or uncertain, but settled wide, steady, and complete. Across the village, the final movements of wakefulness have passed. What remains? As quiet held gently in place. Inside the houses, fires have been allowed to soften into embers. Flames are no longer needed. The glow is enough. It rests low in the hearth, breathing faint warmth into the room without demanding attention. Someone has stirred it one last time, arranging the coals so they will last until morning. The air inside is still. Smoke lingers faintly, mixed with the scent of wood and wool. Walls hold warmth gathered over many hours. Nothing shifts suddenly. Nothing intrudes. Beds are occupied now. Bodies lie at ease, arranged by habit rather than thought. Blankets rise and fall with slow breathing. Sleep has settled deeply, smoothing away the edges of the day. Dreams come and go quietly. Some dissolve before they are formed. Others pass gently through the mind, leaving no trace behind. The night does not insist on meaning. It allows rest to exist on its own terms. Outside, the village is barely distinguishable from the land around it. Rooflines blend into darkness. Paths disappear. Even familiar shapes retreat into shadow. The world feels smaller, enclosed by the night rather than exposed by it. There are few sounds now. A distant creak of wood as a house settles. The soft movement of an animal shifting its weight. Perhaps the faintest whisper of wind across fields or rooftops. Each sound appears briefly, then fades back into silence. The night watcher, if present, moves rarely now. Their work is nearly done. The village does not need guarding when it rests so fully. Stillness itself keeps order. The long medieval night stretches ahead without urgency. Hours will pass unseen. Time will move without being marked. There is no need to count it. In this darkness, the rituals and festivals of the year feel distant, yet present. They have already done their work. They shaped the days, guided the seasons, and now they rest alongside the people who observed them. Firelight, once central, has given way to shadow. Songs have ended. Words have been spoken and released. What remains is the quiet that follows completion. This quiet is not empty. It is full of familiarity, of repetition lived and trusted, of cycles completed and ready to begin again. The embers glow faintly, steady and patient. They do not rush toward ash. They linger, offering just enough warmth to promise continuity through the night. Somewhere beneath the village, the earth holds its own warmth. Above it, the sky stretches wide and dark, indifferent and constant. Between them, the village rests. Morning will come. It always does, but there is no need to imagine it clearly. No need to anticipate light, or movement, or sound. For now, it exists only as certainty, resting beyond the dark. The night holds everything in balance, past and future suspended gently around the present moment. Breathing slows further. The body sinks into stillness. The mind releases its final threads of thought. Nothing more is required. The embers glow. The silence remains. And the long medieval night carries the village, and the listener, quietly, patiently, into rest. Our journey through medieval festivals, feasts, and rituals has now come to a close. The fires have settled into embers. The songs have faded. The village rests quietly beneath the long night. As the spoken story ends, the soft, relaxing music now begins. Let it guide your thoughts into stillness. There is nothing more to follow, and nowhere else to go. Thank you for spending this peaceful time with Go to Sleep Historian. May your rest be gentle, deep, and uninterrupted. Good night.